Now let's look at another dimension. The yellow line here is real personal disposable income for the nation. We look at what people earn on a quarterly basis or an annual basis, and we subtract from that the taxes that they pay, and then this is how much you have left over to spend. That's disposable income. And that's the yellow line that you see. The red line is real personal expenditures. Okay? There's a gap between those two. Normally, that gap reflects savings. You don't spend every last dime that you earn, so we have savings. That's included in the gap. But there's something else. And so now you're looking at what has happened, and notice that the gap has widened as between real personal income and what we spend. The gap is getting wider, has gotten wider. Now I have taken that real disposable income and I've subtracted from it transfer payments. Now we're looking at a society of people who every month get a paycheck that includes their earned income, and for many of them they get another check that's an unemployment benefit, a Medicare benefit, a Medicaid benefit, a Social Security disability benefit, and also some retirement income. Money they made in the past that now is paying off. And so now when you look at this white line, we've taken real personal disposable income and have subtracted from it all of those transfer payments. And when we look at this, you see the gap between the white and the yellow line has widened substantially. That's the borrowed gas. That's the borrowed gas that's supporting a level of expenditures, as you can see, that's running pretty close to earned income minus these transfer payments. It seems to tell us that the American people are not stupid. I've always thought that's the safe assumption to make when you're doing an economic analysis, because if you say, oh, they're stupid, well, that explains anything you want to explain. This says, hey, they've got a pretty good idea of where their money's coming from, and so that says, be careful, friend, because those transfer payments are temporary, some of them. Part of them are my retirement benefits, and in a sense you'd say, that's okay. But that other part that's temporary, I better be careful. And so the difference between those two lines, part of it is that can of gas that we borrowed from somebody else, and in a sense we're borrowing it from ourselves, and that's the Medicare fund, that's the Medicaid fund, that's the Social Security Disability Fund, which the trustees say will run out in 2016. That's 3 years from now. That's the Social Security Fund, which they say will run out in 2036. That's the Medicare fund that the trustees reported 10 days ago will run out in 2024. All right. That's what's in the tank. That's what's in the gas. And those funds are feeding us and keeping us going. So then we have to think about this gap. What is this gap that we've got? That is, when I pull off and try to replenish the gas in the can, will the pumps say no gas? Where's the gas going to come from? Now this is showing you another version of how the American people are faring. I'm showing you two relationships. The white one is personal interest income. The yellow one are government transfer payments. So government transfer payments have accelerated, as you can see, during the Great Recession, and we understand why. Those are the unemployment benefits, the disability benefits. By the way, Social Security disability, the Social Security disability program, when you look at it and see what it is a very wonderful program. when you look at the boilerplate and how it's designed. This is for people who were employed and due to some accident or some difficulty that affects their health and their well-being, they can no longer hold down that job, and they apply for Social Security disability, and they receive something like maybe 85% of what their earnings were, non-taxable, coming out of the Social Security disability fund. During the Clinton years, that accounted for about 3% of the total employment in our nation. In other words, about 3% of the total employed was receiving Social Security disability benefits. That rose to 4%, and then 5%, and now 6%. It has doubled as a result of, I would say, the Great Recession and the difficulties posed by it. Now, typically, those people who go on Social Security disability don't ever come off. I mean, what are the incentives if you're getting 85% of your pay and it's not taxable? And so there is a moral hazard problem. That is what we refer to in the field of insurance as moral hazard. Moral hazard, Uncle Jack insured his shack and now he plays with matches. All right. The presence of insurance induces behavior that would lead to more payoff, more cost. And that's why you can never buy a fire insurance policy for your house that will cover 100% of the loss. Otherwise, there would be more people burning down their houses. You can insure up to 80%. So if you set fire to your house, you're going to be paying for 20% of it yourself. And so the disability program has an element of moral hazard in it. Every form of welfare that we might invent has some element of moral hazard. But the difficulty is what I mentioned earlier, the disability fund is running out of gas. Now, the white line tells us what has happened to a lot of retired people who were counting on interest income to pay their monthly bills. As the interest rates have plummeted, their income has plummeted. And so we have a distributional effect that we can see here in the chart. Those people who were retired on fixed income that had saved and they had put their money in CDs and insurance funds and elsewhere, counting on having a flow of interest income to help them through their retirement years, they are disappointed. Those who are on different kinds of support, usually thought to be temporary, are doing okay, but we've gotten a fire alarm that says, whoops, be careful. We're running out of gas.